Greetings to everybody. It is time for Elephant in the Room, part of Roll Tide Pods. And it is great to have all of you guys here as we talk Alabama football and everything else in the world of Alabama athletics, college athletics. Before I bring on my partner, Mr. Jake Coker, let me remind you guys that Jake won $1 million at mybookie.ag. Well, I'm just kidding. But you know what? Maybe you guys can. I'll tell you, it's fun to go there, mybookie.ag, and with the promo code next round, they'll do price match up to 50% to $1,000 on that initial wager. So you've got college basketball heating up, Alabama trying to make a run, although didn't look good at Lexington, Kentucky last game. Still in first place. You got the NBA. You got Major League Baseball. And all of that stuff is covered at mybookie.ag. And our friend Lance at lanceslock.com's got you covered if you're looking for some help in figuring out exactly how you're going to lay those bets down. You can do those parlays. lanceslock.com. All right, let me bring him on. There he is. I see him over there right now, a national championship quarterback. And a guy that is a multi-millionaire. Thanks to those great wagers. No, I'm just kidding. What's up? What's up, man?
Well, lost money on my Tide on Saturday.
You bet on them?
No, I didn't.
I was gonna. Yeah, I was gonna say there's no chance.
Yeah, no, you don't make millions betting on the Tide in basketball this year, but
on the road anyway. Well, on the road.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I mean, it's just, Nate Oates, he's doing the best he can. And I don't know, you can't coach effort. And I know we scored a bunch of points, but, when you score, 90 points, and they almost had 100 with like 10 minutes left in the game, makes it pretty tough to come away with a W.
Do you think that it's odd that you score 97 points and you still get blown out? I mean, what kind of college team?
Well, that's what I was on a group text with a bunch of my buddies, and I was like, "This is like watching a NBA All-Star game."
Yeah, right.
This is just this whole thing. It's just a bullshit game. It's hard to even watch when everybody's scoring that much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kentucky did shoot well, but we did leave them open a pretty good bit. I don't know how Nate Oates has any energy to do any kind of interview or anything at the end of the game. I don't know if you noticed, but it's like every time we score, he's out there running and telling them to shuffle back, get back on defense. We don't get back on defense, and then they score. You live or die by the three, and that's what happens. But man, I think Kentucky shot like 65% from the floor, which is insane.
Yeah.
And again, that's a great percentage, but at the same time, it means you're leaving a lot of guys open too. Grant Nelson, I felt like he's been a guy that, we got to count on, and he's got to be a tough player. I think he's come a long way this year. Got to have an inside presence. Feel like we're getting there, but you give up 112, 115 points. What's the coaching point after that outside of effort? I mean, because
do you think it's effort related, or is it that we don't have the kind of guys that are good enough to make the plays?
112, 115. You don't have to have much talent to just play defense,
I do know that. You know why? Because I don't have any basketball talent, but when I played, I would just be a Dennis Rodman Thorne, just be that guy that you're like, oh, this dude, you know what I'm talking about? Like, not a lot of this. Just make you make a shot over me.
Well, I mean, we played other good teams really well this year, and when you give up a lot of open threes, usually it's because you're out of position and you're either you're over helping or under helping, and the communication's not there, and the hustle's not there. I mean, there's plenty of guys who weren't very talented that played in the NBA because I say talent is relevant, obviously, in this conversation, but relevant to other NBA players weren't as talented, but made their names on defense and rebounds. And to me, I like a good trash player here and there. I want somebody who's just going to go out there and might get a technical here and there, probably get a technical here and there, but makes plays and roughs people up a little bit and lets them know they're in Tuscaloosa or they're playing Alabama.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same with football. I don't want, it's like Ryan said, one of the last few times he was in here, he got caught a lot of shit for not helping up the opposing team, from Jonathan Allen and Ashawn Robinson. It's like he didn't reach out. He reached out a lending hand to pull up the quarterback after he sacked him, and they were like, "What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, what are you doing, man?"
Yeah. We don't play ball like that around here.
Oh, right. So he had the concussion in practice and was out. Then Mo got the I don't like that stuff, man. Don't elbow a dude in the head.
I didn't like that. I mean, when I say a trash guy, I mean, within the confines of the rules, just as rough as you can play without being a cheap shot artist.
You don't mean laying on the ground and you throw an elbow.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that too. That was pretty blatantly obvious. That was.
When they said that, they were like, I remember I was watching the news report and they were like, like showing the highlight and they were like, he pulled a coker. And I was like, whoa. I'm just kidding. What kind of basketball player were you though? In your entire basketball career, did you ever have to drop did you have to push somebody? Did you give them a little nudge?
Yeah, I did. You get caught in the moment sometimes.
I think so too. I feel bad. I've honestly done this. Not the same. I never elbowed someone in the head, but there's been some times where I did stuff and I was like, why did I do that? But you get so fired up about what's going on. Somebody might have hit you earlier and it's the first time that you got a shot on them.
And you're 17 and you're just a dumbass.
Man. I'm telling you, dude, I know exactly that feeling. I remember getting a 15-yard penalty in football I caught a pass and some guy, I just threw some guy out of bounds. I don't know why. I caught the ball. Man, one hand throwing some guy. I don't even know why.
My dad still tells this story. I was playing City League basketball and he saw me at the end of the game. We were losing. It was I think we were down like 10. And we were fouling them, trying to get back into it. And I knew the game was over. And so I go around, talk to all my teammates. And my dad's like, what were you talking about? When you go around talking to everybody, I was like, I said that it's time to foul. So let's make these fouls count. My dad always tells that story and laughs. I was like, Did you? We're gonna foul them. We're gonna get after them a little bit.
Did you make them count?
I got a few. But back then, I mean, it was
a more physical game back then. Yeah.
Plus, it was. I mean, I was.
You were like that Lambeer of Mobile. What's your grandfather's name to play basketball?
Jules Meunier.
I love that name.
Oh yeah, it's smooth. He was a smooth talker.
Meunier.
He was a smooth.
Why don't when you have your next kid, you have the boy, Jules Meunier Coker. Dude, that is a freaking great name, dude.
Oh yeah,
I'm not even kidding you. I love it. I love the way it rolls off the tongue. And with a name like that, you got to be good.
Drafted by the Celtics.
That's what
and the
you
Yankees.
told me. Yeah. I'm gonna find some people, in my world of baseball, who scouted him. What do you or maybe that remember him? Years do you remember? What year do you know?
It was in the 50s.
In the 50s?
Yeah.
Not going to be many of those guys around anymore. But the thing about baseball scouting, and it's a world that I know well.
Yeah.
Is that people remember.
Yeah. Well, he was going to play, and my best recollection of it is that he had to go to Korea. I can't remember which
Korean
branch.
War.
Yeah, I can't remember which
one
branch.
Of our wars.
But yeah, then he had to go to Korean War, and I mean that was right in his heyday. As soon as he played at Spring Hill College, and that was right in his heyday, and it just didn't work out. But it was a different time back then too. I mean, sports were kind of it was cool, but it wasn't work.
Oh yeah,
and
it was
work
sports.
was a priority back then.
Yeah, I saw where Cody Bellinger just signed a contract for $80 million for 3 years of playing baseball. People were like, "Man,
it's all guaranteed in baseball too." Isn't
well,
it? Unless you get hurt.
Well, no. It's all guaranteed in baseball if you get a guaranteed deal. His is a guaranteed deal with opt outs every year if he wants to opt out. But the Cubs don't have an opt out on that, so it could be he'll probably opt out this year or next year. But he's got $30 million per season. But I mean, I keep reminding everyone that it essentially it's hitting a baseball. Because he wanted $200 million or more. His agent, Scott Boras. It's like, man, when did we get to this point? Why didn't I learn how to do that better? Can you imagine that?
Oh, yeah, $30 million to play baseball would be, and it's all guaranteed for him.
Yeah.
He could go strike out every time, pretty much, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Some of these deals they
of course
sign.
you wouldn't want. I mean,
well, no, some of these guys that's one of the problems baseball has, is that guys will sign these really big contracts.
Oh, every sport's got it.
And then all of a sudden the priority to be successful isn't there. Some guys don't. Mookie Betts is a great example. John Lester. I'm a Cubs guy. John Lester signed a contract and killed it, man. Did a great job. Lived up to it, And I don't think that he's just not the type of guy that wouldn't do it. Then you hear Anthony Rendon signed this huge contract after the Nationals won the World Series and went to the Angels. And now it's like, he's like, well, baseball's not my priority. Family's my priority, and which is fine. But dude, they're paying you they don't have money for anything because they're paying you $200,000 million to get, to get shit done.
Yeah. When I was at the Senior Bowl, I'll never forget. I was, you had all these round tables with all the teams, and you'd speak to the GMs and certain coaches, and they'd ask you questions about certain plays, particular film on an iPad. And then I got to the Saints table, and we talked a little bit. But as I was getting up to leave, one of the GMs or management guys was like, "Do you really love football?" And I was like, I looked at it because I hadn't heard that before, and I was like, at first I was like, I'm thinking in my head, have you not watched film? Have you not seen me run and take shots and play and run with physicality and all that? And then I started thinking about that after my career was over. That's always kind of stuck with me, and I loved playing football at Alabama. Loved playing football in college. And when I got to the NFL and was with the Cardinals, I enjoyed it, to a certain degree, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And, just because you're almost on your own in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
You make a team, you're on the team, you make your money, and then it's cutthroat, prove yourself or get lost.
Right.
And so it's not the same tight knit unit where coaches are trying to develop you because they have to have you, and you don't get that tight knit bond like you do with a college coach. But I don't know. Had I been paid a ton of money at that age, had I realized the importance of working through it and doing everything to the best of my abilities throughout that whole process, with that money in the bank, I can see how it ruins a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Because when you're 21, 22 and you have, $6 million in the bank, you're too stupid to realize
what $6 million is.
Well, I mean, you think, which it is a lot of money. There's no doubt about it, but you don't really realize the implications of the importance and building on that throughout your lifetime. So I didn't realize how important that question was, and I'm sure he was watching how I responded to that. To find out if you're going to pay a guy a lot of money, is he still going to show up and work because he loves football or because he just wants to make a few dollars here in the next few years?
Great point to make. And I think that's one of the issues that you have in baseball with the guaranteed money, because in the NFL, they just release you.
Yeah.
Right?
Or you get a year into your contract and you can't stand the coaches. You can't stand a new hire at the GM position or whatever.
Right.
And all of a sudden you get a bad attitude. You're a bad apple in the locker room, and yet they're stuck with you for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Even though you're making everybody around you worse.
Right. Yeah. No doubt about it, man. I had a GM of a team tell me, there was a guy, and I don't want to say who it is because I promised I wouldn't, but he goes, they had just paid one of the former GMs and I were pretty good friends, right? Like, outside of baseball, just good friends. And he's like, and the guy has a Mobile tie, by the way, but he's like, money doesn't come with instructions, and basically he's like, you pay these guys and you don't know what they're going to do with it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about 80 million, 70 million, 50, I think, 100 million. Like,
it almost should just be given to a money manager who's, really trustworthy.
Man, I wish I had talent to make that kind of.
Pay them $300,000 a year.
You think our show would change if somebody paid us $50 million? Would that be, we don't give a shit money, or would that be where we are like really locked in on podcasting?
No, we'd be doing this and it'd be a lot more entertaining
because we'd have better guests.
That, and I wouldn't care what I said.
No. Hey, no. I'll tell you what, if we had that, if somebody gave us that kind of money, we would hire Shank and Ryan full time. Can you imagine us?
Ryan wouldn't be building houses anymore.
No. Well, he on the side, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but he'd be here every week.
It'd be a bigger studio. Although I like the ambiance in here. Don't get me wrong, but it's so funny.
Hey, it's like
I miss those guys when they're not here.
Oh, I know. But it's like you hear all the time, though. I mean, guys, when they make a lot of money, they miss I love this studio.
Yeah.
It's just a homey feel.
Yeah, it is.
You kick back and relax and.
Oh, I do it all the time. I'm in here a lot. But I know what you mean. It's got a good vibe in here, man. Like, you've heard of ambiance before. Like, there's just certain places you go in the restaurants. We went to a restaurant the other day, and it was like, I walked in and it was like, man, this place has a great ambiance.
Oh yeah.
Food was great. Everything was great, but it just had the way, I don't even always understand what makes ambiance, but it's like when you walk into a place and it just feels comfortable.
Oh yeah. It's like what's the new restaurant that the Floribama guys opened right there?
Oh, Coastal.
You walk in there and you go to that bar that's right on the beach.
Great one. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m. It always has that lighting in there. It's all natural lighting. It always feels like it's the perfect time to get a beer.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do it for. AI told them how to do that.
But you go in there for brunch and you sit there and then, you have a Bloody Mary or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, what time is it?
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like the same time when you walk out as it was when you walk in.
I like that place is huge too, man. Do you realize how big it is? Like,
oh yeah.
I went in there one time and realized like that the Coastal has like, I actually had the first time I went there was with Dunaway Brown and LT. Like they were doing a show at the Floribama and we kicked it over there.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been in there.
Huge though.
Oh yeah, I've been in there 3 or 4 times, and every time I walk in there, I've got a great friend of mine that I walk in and I'll go wash my hands or something and come back out and he's sitting at the bar. I'm like, dude, you're in here too much. Like this place.
Wait, he's in there. You don't even know that he's there.
I'm not there to meet him. I'm just like, again.
Yeah. I need a friend like that. Yeah, love that place, man. Yeah, there's just certain spots that you get the ambiance from, and I don't know, like you can't buy ambiance. It just like Floribama is one of the best places on the earth when it comes to just walking in and feeling like comfort.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Right.
I don't even know why.
Well, the history of the Floribama is, you go in there and you just feel it right off the bat.
Yeah.
I mean, and then all of a sudden you get in, you get past the entrance, and to me, you hear Bama breeze in your head.
Yeah.
You're ready to go have a good time with the boys. And,
Are you doing the mullet toss this year?
I committed to it. I got 2 weddings this year. It's the end of April, isn't it?
Yeah.
I keep telling Paul Register I'm going to do it. And
I don't know how that happened.
We celebrate.
Did you say weddings and then all of a sudden balloons came up for you? How did that mean? I don't even know what you just did there.
No, I've been telling Paul Register that.
It wasn't Paul Register that made the balloons happen.
I was trying to see, but we play in that Mullet Toss golf tournament pretty good bit, and I have not been to the floor or not been to the Mullet Toss, but I think I told him I'd make it happen this year, so I think I'm going to have to make it happen. Probably have to do a show. We might do a show and commentate the Mullet Toss.
Hey, look, I commentated the Mullet Toss last year, and you know this. I almost had an unexpected demise from Earth with my emergency appendectomy. And when I was laying in there and they were like about to do surgery, I was like, I can't die yet. I have to broadcast the Mullet Toss. Well, can you do it with me? Let's do it, man.
I'll do it.
We did it on like their YouTube channel and stuff.
I'd love to do it,
dude. That would be awesome, man.
Oh yeah.
And then we go out and throw at the end.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't think last year by the time I threw, it was like a 20 knot wind. I threw the fish, it unfolded and it just flew back. I still threw it further than
you fold it to throw it.
I don't want to give you any. If I'm throwing against you, I don't want to give you any tips. But I don't think
throw it by the tail, because every time thrown a few fish in my day, you grab them by the tail and you can sling them. What kind of fish is it? It's a mullet. Jesus.
No, it's a snapper. No, it's a mullet.
I'm getting out of here.
No, come on. It's fine. It's fine. Like I got you. Got a message from Meathead, who went to high school with LT and is a huge fan of our show. And he loved having Jimmy Carroll in here, man. Missing ring. He's like, watch the show.
I wanted to follow up on that more, because
great feedback. It's one of those shows I think that show's gonna, over time, just keep digging.
Oh yeah. Well, I've always hated Notre Dame. I really didn't know why, outside of my dad hated Notre Dame. And he always used to tell me they stole a national championship from us. And I didn't know the background or history of it. And I learned a little bit from Jimmy, and I still need to go back and look. But I had no idea. And I know it's a little bit of Homer talk, I guess, but to play for a tie just so you don't have to. What he said, they played for a tie so they didn't have to play Alabama, or they could maintain the first place spot.
I thought it was he talking about Michigan? Was it Michigan State and Notre Dame?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He said, he said they felt like they played for a tie.
And Bear Bryant came out and said that too.
That's what he said. Yeah. It's pretty clear on that.
But I've always hated Notre Dame. Just again, my dad couldn't stand Notre Dame, and because of that. And
I always wanted to go to Notre Dame. Look, I'm Mick Gillispie. I'm an Irish Catholic. I thought that was I never thought I would be at Alabama. Now I hate them too. I went to the game. I Actually, it was a Maryland Notre Dame game in that was like one of those preseason bowl game type games. It was in New Jersey with a couple guys I grew up with, and I was like, these are the nerdiest fans I've ever seen.
But they travel.
Oh, dude, they were everywhere, and they're like, "Wow, we just beat Maryland. I think we can win the national championship." And they like lost like 4 games that year, 5, you know. Then we played them, and I told you the story. Like right there, I was on the sideline, hanging out with Vince Vaughn, and and watching, and I was like, "Man, I don't know if we can beat these guys." And then Eddie Lacy just punked them, man. It was great.
Oh yeah, I mean,
have you ever met Manti Te'o? He was on, he was on that Notre Dame team. My Daniel Moore print has him right there.
I know what you're doing. Ever since I saw that, when I saw that documentary,
you feel bad for him now because he's a good guy.
Well, that's I
met a guy like him in baseball that's very famous, and I don't want to say who it is. I told you off the air, just because I like him and I don't want to embarrass him, but I bet you they're the exact same personality. Yeah. Where they're gullible enough. They're great athletes.
Guy.
Yes,
it's so nice that they're that naive.
Yes, and it right.
How does that happen?
But it's just the way. Like this guy's dad was very ran the house. He he was kind of, even though he was bigger than his dad was the bigger personality, and I could totally see that something like that happening to him. And I'm talking about
another example of social media ruining the world, man. People glued to their phones, electronic communication instead of talking face to face.
And I've told people that worked in that same, he's a baseball player that know him from baseball. And I was like, every time I heard the Manti Te'o stuff, I thought of this guy, and they were like, man, us too. There's just certain people that are just naive to the world. Like it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that, and I think Manti Te'o obviously was one of those guys. But Eddie Lacy in that championship game was amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean that was.
Where'd you watch that one?
I watched that at a teammate's house in Tallahassee.
Did you?
Yep.
I remember being there, and my one of my friends from college's dad owns Yingling Lager, and he lived there. She's like, "Hey, come out to eat with my dad." And this
Where'd y'all go?
We went to like a restaurant, and somewhere around there,
a crab place. What is it called?
I honestly I couldn't tell you, man. We walked in, and then the guy's like, the waiter comes, and he's like, what do you guys want to drink? And then he's like, he looks over and he sees her dad's name's Dick Yingling. He's like, oh, okay. And he comes back. He's got 4 Yinglings. That's pretty cool, man. I'll never forget that with that game.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great.
And then Cheryl's always told me, she was like, you and my dad would get along. And it was like, we see things very similarly.
Oh yeah. It's like you knew each other the whole time.
Politics wise. Yeah. It was like right in the same world, but a great dude, man. He's a guy that still gets out on the forklift and move stuff. He's, he built the company, and he's just not like some rich dude that's, he just likes to work.
Yeah, and it seems like anybody who builds a company is always just can't stop.
She went to Alabama. That's obviously where I know her from.
And they're from
Pennsylvania, Pottsville, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But what's cool is to go to Alabama. Everybody else went to Penn State.
Yeah,
bucking the trend, man. Well, I told you my cousin's grandson got in
Alabama. Because you never really talk about that.
Yeah. So that's a great question, man. My dad used to tell me, he was like, you need to go south, but tell me this all the time, right? And so college came, and I went to University of Maryland, and I just never felt like it wasn't my scene,
Yeah.
And I went on an exchange program, and where you could go anywhere in the country to school. So I went. So my buddy Brian and I were like, we were going to go to Georgia, and we were going to get in, and it was like, you basically are Maryland credits, but you're at Georgia, right? Well, He shows up one day, and he's like, bro, why aren't we going to Hawaii? And I'm like, I don't know. So we go to Hawaii. So we spent a semester in Hawaii and like learned how to surf, like did the whole Hawaiian thing. But same thing at Maryland. Like I just didn't feel the vibe, like I liked being in Hawaii. I like surfing, I like doing all that stuff, but I just felt landlocked. And then I reached out to this guy named Tom Strong, Dr. Strong. He used to run the Alabama had this national championship water ski team. And now being here and being on the water like we are, you get like people love the water ski, right?
Oh yeah.
But he was in charge of the exchange program, and so I came down and I was like, did a semester. I was like, okay, I'm not. I mean,
Wait,
first.
So did you ski?
No. He was just in charge of that, and he ran the water ski team.
Yeah.
So he was in charge of the national exchange thing. So they found a spot for me, and I came down, and man, I went to that 96 Iron Bowl, and I got.
You were done,
dude. I was done, man. I couldn't get here fast enough, So then I was like, told them, I'm like, and I made great grades, To be honest, to be perfectly honest with you, you actually had to study at Maryland, You know what I mean? Like it was actually hard. At Alabama, I was like, man, I don't even have to go to these classes. You know what I mean, though. Like, just felt like I felt like at Maryland, like all I was doing was just in the books all the time.
Yeah.
Came here and it was just a lot slower pace, and loved the people, loved the culture. I met. When I talk about this, my son's named after a guy named Jake, Thomas Walter Jackner. And Jake was from New Jersey, and I met him, and he was kind of like me, like from up north, but lived at Alabama. He was like walk-on football guy, and
oh yeah,
great dude, man. And I just remember like telling, like we kind of saw it the same way. Like some people come from up north, and it's like they want to bring that with them.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, we want that to stay there, and we want what's here. Like we were boys fast, Great friends fast because of that. Like it was like, man, these people here are great.
What were you expecting when you came down?
Man, I don't know, dude. My dad just used to tell me, he's like, like you I guess just because your parents know you, like and our family's very Southern, like we just didn't live there. But like I'm talking about like did the genealogy thing, and just lost you. There you are. Did the genealogy thing, and both of grandfathers on both sides of my family fought for the Confederacy and the Civil War. I mean, it's just kind of, like they were there in all those wars and stuff out of Virginia, but poor people, not like rich people and stuff. So but there was always like a very reverence for the South, but at the same time, it was like, we were always really big on, I can remember my grandfather telling me that every person, no matter what they look like or where they're from, deserves the respect of figuring out who they are, like that was a big thing at our house. Like, and that by being around me, I'm like that with everybody. Like, I don't care how much money you have or how little money you have. Like, you got to stand on your own 2 feet, But my dad kept telling me, he's like, hey, this is a place that's going to fit you. You need to get out of Maryland. You need to move down there. So that's kind of, and so when I got down to Alabama, I was like, man, this is great. Like, I mean, it just felt like a fish in water, all these years, I never felt like I really fit in, and I told you, I went to my high school reunion last year. My wife's like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, I feel like I'm in somebody else's land, like I'm Alabamian, Alabamian, like whether it's in Tuscaloosa or here down here in South LA, But I like the fact that people here are pretty genuine, man. You feel that way too? Like I feel like people here, like
it's like we've talked about before. I mean, when I love Florida State. Again, lifelong best friends that will always be some of my closest friends. And Florida State's still, the South, but there's a lot of Miami in there.
Yeah,
and
right.
There's a lot of different Florida culture in there. It's not necessarily Southern, but there's a feel when you're in Alabama. You got that. It's a part of you almost, and you do take that wherever you go. And it sounds goofy, but you hear "Sweet Home Alabama,"
I love it, dude.
or some of those songs that it means more to you.
It does,
being
man.
from Alabama.
I got a lot of pride in our state, man.
Yeah,
I hate leaving.
It's hard to explain. It's just it's a homey feeling no matter where you go.
I hate leaving, and I love coming back. I used to say it all the time. We would come back when we lived in Chattanooga, and I'd be like, it's just like the roads ride smoother, the air breathes cleaner, and the skies are bluer. Roll fucking Tide.
That's right.
I can't really tell you why, man. But I just every time I come back, and it's like
you talk to people, you have something in common with everybody.
Dude, I know. Well, the other thing too is about being here, and it's helped me in my baseball career, and I think it kind of extends even into anything that you do, but you always know somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean?
You do. It's crazy.
And they know you too.
It's crazy.
You're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Or I know him, through this person.
It's like going to Innisfree after a game.
Yeah.
And you're talking to you're there with all your teammates, and you always obviously you're running into random people and fans and stuff. You start talking and you're like, I know this person. That's one of my best friends. And they're like, oh, you're kind of a loser.
The funny thing, dude, is
it just takes everybody back down to the same level.
Yeah. The funny thing about us hanging out, doing our stuff, like I have had people come up to me over the years and they're like, hey, do you know Jay Coker? And I'm like, well, we had you on the show, the tailgate show.
Yeah.
Right before the 2nd and 26 game or whatever it was, right? I didn't really know you, but like you said though, man, it's like, hey, I grew up with them or hunting with them or whatever, It's just funny, like now that we're doing this, like kind of like remembering back, like because it's that same Alabama thing, man. Now I live down here, everybody knows you. I go to Key West. And you went to high school with the one family's kid that was with us. Yeah. And then, you not just from football. I mean, I'm not just talking about being a quarterback at Alabama. Like, forget that part of it. I'm just talking about being just living here,
Yeah. I mean, you almost got to go to like California or the Northwest to not know anybody.
But I love that about Alabama, man. When my sister came to Alabama for school, and I was like,
well, you also just never, it's crazy. So many people come from small towns. I found out Mia Hamm was from Selma yesterday.
Yeah. I knew that.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Found that out yesterday.
Yeah, no, I knew that back when
from an Instagram page called Strange Things in Alabama.
Strange.
That's a Ryan Anderson. That's a Ryan Anderson referral.
Is it? Yeah. Ryan sends out these. I got to ask him about these next time, but he sends out
devotionals
I love them, man.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta like this. I don't like every day, but I'm read them every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The last one was about Abe Lincoln.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
Writing letters to guys that he was angry with. But never sent them.
Yeah.
Just get it out in a letter and move on.
Man, I feel that's something that we've talked about at my house. Like, I had this, my late mother-in-law and I loved her, but we had this disagreement on some family stuff. And we had this, famous showdown, and the whole fight started over. She was going to babysit my son when he was like a baby, right? And but we had some tension. It had to do with the divorce of my sister-in-law and kind of how she was handling that. And I'm a you got to stay together. You know that about me. Like, you just stick it out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm dumb, but I'm like old school when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree.
Anyway, yeah,
100%.
dude. Anyway, so we got. I had some things to say, and she had some things to say. She also called me a bastard and chased me with the broom. But the funny part about it was, after all that, it was like it never happened. Like, I felt good about, like, that we kind of got out what we had to say. And it's like, do you have the ability to move on?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes just like putting it on paper or saying it, like it's uncomfortable when it happens. But then it's like you look back and you're like, man, I never held a grudge. Like, I was never angry again.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was like one of those type of things. I mean, this is years
Well,
ago
it's
now.
kind of like, I mean,
I would have handled it differently at this age, by the way, but you know what I mean?
well, I mean, it's like, you think about it.
A fucking crying kid all the time, you fight over milk. You've had 3 hours sleep,
Well, I mean, oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Been there, and
You know
I
what I'm
am
talking
there
about?
right
Like,
now.
You don't have the capacity to hold shit back.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Like, rah, roar,
It's, the end of a long day, and then just the smallest.
I got
thing,
throwed
like,
up on last night. We've been up every 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm there right now. Of course,
my
8-month-old doesn't spit up a whole lot.
And I had this one time I was watching my son and he just sitting there watching TV, and he just decided to jump off and hit his head on the ground, and I was like, oh my God, like I just killed him.
Oh yeah.
Those are like you never get those out of your mind,
Oh,
I went to the hospital one time, and I got to tell you this one because she told me to tell you this. I was holding his arms like where he could swing, and he loved it. And then one of them like popped out a joint.
Oh
and
yeah.
Then we had to go to the hospital.
elbow.
Well, no, it was at like the shoulder, I think, or whatever. We had to go to the hospital, and it was like crying, go there, and then all of a sudden he stopped crying, and they're like checking. It's like, no, there's no problem here. And then they're like, oh yeah, sometimes their shoulders pop out, but they pop back. I'm like, never holding that, you know what I'm talking about? Like, never holding him like he's a monkey again.
Oh yeah, I take my oldest and just grab her by the hands and swing her in circles.
Don't do it.
Loves it.
Don't do it, because if you get that, that's a terrible feeling. But after your swing thing, I was reminded about that one.
Yeah,
because that was all my fault. I would hold it like this.
When that happened, no, I mean,
that's parenting, though, man. That's how this goes, dude. It's not easy.
Oh no, well, I that's when it all happened. I mean, I'm traumatized. I feel, I feel worse than my daughter, and my daughter's fine. She's running around playing.
She didn't even care.
As soon as we get back from the hospital, she's back at school now. No issue.
Right.
But I'm beating myself. I don't go anywhere for the week during the weekend. I mean, it was Mardi Gras. I was supposed to go to a few things. I didn't. And, I'm just beating myself up. And my mother-in-law's like, well, she might have broken this, and she might have 2 teeth just jammed up in there. It might be a lot worse. And I was like, hey, I'm not listening to that right now.
No, no.
And it wasn't. What do you think? It was just like, I can't handle it.
Yeah,
because
I'm with
if
you,
I
man.
did screw her up, I'm not gonna be able to, live myself.
There's no book for it, man.
Oh no,
there's no like, this is how you do it, or this is how you don't do it. But you just do your best. I mean, being there is a big thing,
Yeah, that's right.
And trying to be the best role model you can be, which I'm not a great role model, but I pay the bills, so I'm give me a little credit for that. But the whole point was like, sometimes just getting what you need to say out, and it's like,
oh man,
it just kind of relieves that tension that you have. Right. Because once you tell somebody, well, if you don't want to follow it, but it's also when you're watching somebody fuck up, you're like, man, I wish I got to tell this person, like, what you're doing is wrong.
Oh yeah. Well, it's also, I always
how about
tell
your
people,
friends, man?
I've been in, I mean, I've had some heated arguments, some heated battles with people before that I love, friends, family. And, we'll end up laughing about it later on. And then I'm just like, well, imagine how it would have been if somebody had messed with you.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. And, they were threatening you. I mean, it would have been that times 10 towards them protecting you.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not going to do anything. I love you. I mean, I'm having a disagreement.
Saying. Yeah.
But,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, man. Like kind of having that ability to like say the things that you need to say sometimes, or I don't know, or just even having the insight to know that, that someone that you care about is making a bad decision. And, I look back now and it doesn't make me feel good that everything I said was right and more, just like it just sucks that not everyone has the insight to like listen to when somebody tells them to do something, because it's like, hey, this isn't benefiting me. I'm just telling you because I don't know why in life, but there's just certain times where you're watching somebody else do something and you're like, that's a bad idea. What you're doing is fucking terrible. They're just doing that. Then everybody's like, they don't see it, Why couldn't they tell me that?
On the runway with the lighted cones?
Dude, I want somebody to tell me that. Come at me with those lights, I'll tell you this, dude. Like kind of along the same lines, like, which is totally not football related, but I mean, we're where we are, right? Heading into spring practice, like,
oh yeah,
this is a good time probably just to like go this direction, and then we'll talk about the cornerback battle. but it's like when I remember being younger, and I don't know if it was that I was just confident in making a bad decision or I just didn't know any better. But the older I get, the harder it is to make decisions because I'm so worried about making the wrong decision.
You get a lot more people to please than just yourself now.
Yeah, that's true, man.
I mean, that's my biggest obstacle to making decisions. Is it the best thing for the 4 people in my house,
right?
Rather than just me.
Look, I wake up, I'm always worried about everything. You know what I mean? Like paying bills and what I'm going to do here and what I'm going to do there and how this is going to come off and how that's going to come off, and it's like, sometimes I have to tell myself like, you know what, you've done the best you can, like in your career and in your life. And you've actually done all right, because it doesn't always feel like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean by that?
Oh yeah. Heck
it's
yeah.
Like, fuck, man.
Yeah, it's nice. Have some moments of clarity. You leave the office finally done with all your shit for the day, and then a good song comes on, and you just kind of realize how awesome it is to be able to head back to the house.
Dude, yeah. I'll tell you where you're lucky is that, I don't have parents and I don't have grandparents, so it's like there's just those times where I just want to bang something off of them.
Mm-hmm.
We're those people that love you to the point where they're not going to tell you what you want to hear.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where you need that. Like, well, what do you think? Am I trying too hard on this? Am I doing, you know what I mean? I never know, but when you're getting something from your mom or your dad, like there's a reason when you walk in their house that your face is everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And that's always what I've like. And my grandmother, like same thing. My grandmother was really like my mom, like going in there and like, it's like a collage to me, great grandparents walking in and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, you look just like your dad. Like you get old. I'm not that old, but
I'll call my dad sometimes and tell him something happened. He goes, oh, well, time heals everything. That's what I know. That's what I know. I'm like, oh god.
My uncle's one of those. I've got my aunt, my uncle, that are kind of those people to me.
Yeah.
But because they're not like my mom or my dad, they're a lot harder on me. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot easier for them to put their foot up my ass. Do you know what I mean by that? It's a little more abrasive, My aunt will get on me sometimes. she's like I've told you, like I had heard from a great source that Tua, and I love Tua.
Oh yeah.
That Tua shouldn't have played in that Mississippi State game. That he was limping, he was hurt, and I thought like we could have won the championship in 2019. LSU didn't want to play us again. And my aunt and like listen to all my shows, and I was still doing radio for Tide, and everything. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was that
we should have beat LSU that year.
Well, we should have, but that Mississippi State game, we should have played Mac Jones and let him sit. But we didn't. We had him in there, and then he gets caught up in that play and like breaks his hip, and he's out of the field, and I loved him. I still do. And I was on the post-game show, and I'm like, I knew he couldn't. We didn't even know if he could walk into the stadium that day, and yet we had like a 28-point lead, and we're still playing him, and he gets hurt, And my aunt's like, reach out, like you don't ever question Nick Saban. You need to stop it right there. Like like she was on me, and it was serious too.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, listen, I just want to tell everybody on the post-game show right now, I'm sorry. I'm not questioning Nick Saban, but I wish that he would have took 2 out of the game. Nick Saban walked on water today.
I mean,
he walked on water pretty much. Anyway,
that's one of those deals too. Though I mean, it's a culture builder doing it that way.
Yeah.
As much as I hated to see that, I'm
quarterback's just another guy.
I agreed with you. I do agree with you. I think Coach Saban would agree with you. It'd probably be best.
He said it. He's admitted it in a way, in his way.
But he's got a hard time. He's got a standard and a rule for.
He does.
We played. Let's see. I mean, I remember we were playing. I think it was Coastal Carolina before we played in the Iron Bowl, and it was our last home game, senior night. And I were talking to Ryan Kelly, and I was like, me and Ryan were talking. We're like, you think what's the earliest you think will be? And I, hell, bad on our part for even talking about this before the game. But we're like, you think Coach Saban will let us out before the second half? Just kind of joking around about it. And he's like, well, we better be up by 45 points. And man, we got up 45 points in the first half. He took us out, and we couldn't believe it. And then we were straight off to Innisfree celebrating.
No, I love Coach Saban, and I don't.
But that was the first time I think that may have ever happened.
Yeah, right.
Where he made the exception just because it had gotten that. We just played out of our minds for a game like that. It was like everything clicked,
Yeah.
And usually you get off to a slow start. Man, we were scored first drives. I think we scored every drive we were in. And he was like, all right, that'll do.
Yeah, let's pull off the dogs.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss him, man. Like, it's starting to sink in now that he's gone. And I think that, like, I was talking to Mike Johnson today, and we were talking about, like, DeBoer's personality compared to Saban's personality, and he was like, man, I don't know that Saban's personality would have worked for 4 more years with the kids that are coming up. And you're talking about a guy that was coaching high school football in the Atlanta area a couple years ago, and then obviously played at Alabama and does radio for the Falcons. But Mike's one of the smartest guys I know. Like, he's just really intelligent.
Yeah.
And would have the
That's
feel.
what I've heard.
Yeah, right. Would have the feel for like that. And I agree with him, man. Like, I think that's why Coach DeBoer is a great fit. It's just that mentality works well with the new athlete, but man, I miss Nick Saban.
Here's what I'm gonna miss, dude. And I mean, Coach Saban was obviously a great coach, but he was a mouthpiece for just a sane society. He always had a message for Alabama that resonated with everybody, and everybody.
Just keep talking. I'm listening.
No, but it resonated with the entire state, and it kind of set a goalpost for for people in terms of wanting to do more, wanted to achieve more, wanted to put effort in and make their surroundings better, whether it be their community, the school they taught at, their job, the company they worked for. It set a tone for everybody, and that's my honest opinion. A guy with that much knowledge and wisdom, he affected a lot more than people that just worked for him. He affected everybody that heard his message, and it was kind of like, it was almost like a pastor, speaking to a congregation, and that congregation was more than just the state of Alabama. You need strong leaders like that lead by example and have a firm stance on their outlook on life and what they believe to be is right. Weak leaders, guys that don't really, lay a standard down, don't get the kind of production or just the kind of develop the kind of men that they need to develop in order for them to be successful outside of football and beyond Alabama.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, man. I'm curious to see what's going to look like. And this is what I said to Mike. I was like, I think that we're going to be all right for the first 3 years. I mean, I remember when Gene Stallings left and Mike DuBose took over, they won an SEC championship with the, Gene Stallings guys as seniors. Yeah. But then when all those guys were gone, it was like all of a sudden there just wasn't that culture in there. Yeah, right. It wasn't that culture there anymore, And I wonder, what's the culture going to be like when there's no more Coach Saban guys? Because I really think that the roster that they have right now, those guys have a ton to prove. The guys that stuck it out.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like, it's kind of like Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, a lot to prove there without Belichick behind you, you make a name for yourself. I mean, how crazy would it be, or not just crazy, but what kind of legacy would these guys leave if they won a national championship after Coach Saban leaves?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that would be an unbelievable story. It would set them apart from all other teams that have won a national championship in the last 10 years, or 15 years, really. You right the ship after people have, labeled you as, to use Coach Saban's words, dead, buried, and gone. I mean, nobody gives Alabama a shot this year. Everybody thinks Alabama may be low end of the playoff or not even included, based on what we've lost and the apparent upheaval of this program. And coming in as a new coach, you can't win without senior leaders that influence the entire locker room to buy into a new staff and a new program.
Yeah, right.
So it's going to take, it's going to take the character of these leaders to do that and influence the young guys to buy in and get on the same level as them.
Yeah.
So again, any success in year 1, year 2 has a lot to do with the players that stayed, the leaders that stayed, and how they get everybody on that team to adapt to Kalen DeBoer's system.
Yeah. Look, man, I think
it says a lot more to their character if they win this year and next year than anything else that they've done since they've been there.
I can't wait to see spring practice.
I can't either, man. I'm more excited about this year than I've been, about years prior, because you kind of knew. I mean, people used to ask me about how Alabama was going to be this year. And I was like, well, we'll just see when we get to the playoff whether we have a lot of leaders or not. I mean, that was the answer. It's like, we're making it to the playoff, and if we've got leaders, we'll win. If we don't, we won't. For the most part.
I got you.
There's sometimes you play one team that's better on all fronts than Alabama for the most part, or just has a lot of talent that overcomes Alabama. But the coaching is going to be there. That the culture's there. It comes down to the plays on the field, and usually when Alabama has leaders to be focused at the end of the year, focused on the team at task, the game in front of them, we win. When we're not focused, we're good enough to make it to playoff, or coach well enough to make it to playoff, but it's just not enough to finish.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, that's it, man. Like, I think that this is going to be a fun year because I think that DeBoer he's going to take the best of what Saban does or did, and then with the best of what he does and make the most out of it. Now, I'm very concerned about the secondary. Everyone left.
Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a Ferrari parked at the stadium yesterday.
I didn't know that.
So Coach Saban's still around.
Is he? How about the whole crew left? Like, all the players, like one guy, Jaleel Hurley is the only guy that is a cornerback that played for Alabama last year. You got Damani Jackson, who transferred in from USC. He was a 5-star.
Yeah. You got a guy from Michigan.
Yeah. Well, no, he's a safety.
Well, he's a DB.
Yeah. But I mean, cornerback wise though, like, it's like it's Mbakwe, who I think is going to be great, man. The guy that was from Clay Chalkville, played quarterback, but he's going to be. I think he could be the next Kool-Aid. I think he's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Mincy from Tampa that they call, or from Daytona that they call Bam Bam.
Hey man,
these are all 5-star guys, man.
Yeah, this is the new norm though too.
Is it?
We have to get used to it because we're going to be recruiting sophomores in college instead of high school guys for the foreseeable future until they figure this thing out.
Zabian Brown. So, at least you got 5-star guys.
I mean,
there's 5 cornerbacks though. Like everybody else went. Like that crew left. That was when I was critical of the way that Nick Saban rolled out. If you could have just given us a heads up, we might have been able to keep at least some of those guys. Antonio Kite, I
mean, it's like quarterbacks for Jimbo. I mean, quarterbacks for Jimbo turned down other offers because Jimbo was the quarterbacks coach at Florida State.
Right.
And his track record and his knowledge, he's one of the best quarterback coaches to do it. At Alabama for Coach Saban, it was DBs. They turned down the Ohio States. They turned down the Texases. They turned down USC's to play for Coach Saban at Alabama. So
learn that position.
Yeah. So I mean, when you lose your rock and the guy that you think's taking you to the NFL, and the only reason you went there was because of Coach Saban.
Right. You're leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I mean,
but it's time to figure out who's going to be the next guy. I mean,
no, that's right.
Isn't cornerback a pretty important position?
But it wasn't surprising that those guys left.
Oh yeah, right.
Because Coach Saban's the reason you're there.
Yeah. I mean, I figured some of those guys would have stuck around, but that whole secondary is going to be different. But I like the coaches that we have too, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, coaching is not going to be the issue. It's the recruiting and making sure we keep our guys around that understand.
Do you feel like Auburn's
recruiting?
I mean, look, man. Do you feel like Auburn's doing anything?
I feel like they're building momentum with Coach Freeze, but I would have expected a lot more out of him since this transition.
He's a good coach, but I don't feel it doesn't feel like they took advantage of Coach Saban leaving. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's just been a steady build with Coach Freeze, but I don't feel like it's been oh God, Coach Saban's leaving now. They're when skyrocketing.
Yeah, right. And what since I'm the OG on here, and all these shows, I was there when we fucked it up.
Yeah,
and you could tell they had Tuberville, and we just had we had like the Bozo the Clown show from, WGN on weekday mornings. We're throwing ping pong balls in a bucket,
Oh, yeah.
It's like every time you turn around, you're like, oh God, And part of that was the NCAA coming down on us. We had, I've talked about this before, man. We had people in our own aren't supposed to be on our side.
Yeah.
Turning in stuff that didn't need to be turned in. It was a lot more than just, I know Mike DeBose takes a lot of the rap for like the issues, but a lot of that stuff that he paid the price for was stuff that happened under Gene Stallings and recruiting and NCAA. And we were kind of like Tennessee is right now for the NCAA. Although the NCAA found out the hard way that it don't work like that anymore. Mm-mm. They got beat in court. But see, we didn't have that then. And
the NCAA's irrelevant now.
Well, right. It's a shit show. But we didn't have that option. They just pick a couple schools and they just try to make an example out of them.
Oh, yeah.
And we were that school back then, like Tennessee is now, except Tennessee took them to court and they're done.
They grab schools. I mean, it's
a money-making
This is play. Yeah, it's the NCAA's playbook is punish the teams that they know are on the downfall. And they're on their way to the bottom anyway. And they know they're not going to be a moneymaker for them in the next coming years. I mean, it's like when Reggie Bush left, that's when they hit him with those USC with allegations.
Right.
A&M, they're not going to touch Johnny Manziel. Cam Newton, they're not touching Auburn while they're, in the middle of, historic runs.
Right.
Or Heisman Trophy candidacies. They just get them after those guys are gone and they look like they're on the downhill slope. That's when they start slapping them with allegations because they're not a driver for them anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's always been a nightmare up there. They've always been clowns.
Clowns, dude. Listen to that guy tell us we were we were staring down the barrel of a gun, and it's like, look, man, if you didn't realize that everybody was paying players the entire time, and not just at Alabama, it was happening at Tennessee. I've told you my Tennessee story.
And you want to throw allegations at somebody now because you want to look like you're upholding the law.
Hey,
when it's all a farce and it's a joke. And who's getting paid the whole time.
Right, the whole time, man.
You know exactly what's going on.
Like I know it's weird for an Alabama guy to take up for Tennessee, but I've taken up for Tennessee because I think the whole thing was bullshit anyway, man.
That whole deal.
I like watching them get in trouble, and it's like, okay, so you're gonna come down on the Nico recruitment or whatever. Well, how about what just happened to us with Caleb Downs when there's a bidding war between Ohio State and Georgia? You guys don't see that? Like, but that's what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they don't even know it. I don't even know if they know how to enforce. I don't know if they know the rules.
I heard Aaron Settle say, and he didn't like come out and say it, but he was like, well, he didn't leave because of money. I don't know what the collective's doing or not doing, but we had the Saban effect for so long.
Yeah.
That I feel bad for those guys. Because we never really took that shit seriously. And I know a guy that I'm good friends with, and too, that was trying to really urge Alabama to get this collective shit going early. Like, we were worried about it. Saban didn't want to do it. We were like, what's this going to be like NCAA wise, And then now all of a sudden, he leaves and now the money matters.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just the way it is. Like, that's why when I look at what Coach DeBoer has done as far as keeping the core of the team together, I'm impressed by it. Now, who the hell knows what's going to happen with the cornerbacks? Because all of them left. What's going to happen at safety? Because we lost a lot of those guys too. But somebody will be there.
Aaron is now helping out though with some of the collective stuff through Yale, Alabama.
Who's that?
Aaron Suttles.
Oh yeah, right. I heard him talking about it.
And if people want to get involved, again, they're trying to get fans to become members of Yale, Alabama, and that's gonna, help raise money for the collective. Now, at the same time, Yale, Alabama is going to have to be pretty transparent about how that money is being spent. If it's coming from the collective of fans, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
and players that mean a lot to Alabama fans need to be compensated, but you got to be careful with who you're paying and how you're paying them.
I like the gear, man. The Lank gear
I do too.
Was cool. We need to get some of that in here.
Yeah, we do.
We need to be a spokesman for Lank.
Next season, we'll be sporting some Lank.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I know that, like, just from, my Bama Tailgate channel on YouTube, like, there's definitely still some people that aren't convinced that Jalen Milroe is going to be like the next great quarterback at Alabama. And I'm bought in on him, man. I believe in him. I think that he's going to do a good job. Like, I know that there's areas as far as his passing game goes that could get better. But, man, I like guys that just figure out how to win. Yeah. There were times this past season where if you wouldn't have had a guy with that type of instinct, Alabama would not have been in the championship game. They wouldn't have won that. They wouldn't have been in the college football playoff. I didn't think he played his best game against Michigan, but with that said, like, we lost in overtime. Like, I believe in him, and I think that Jalen DeBoer believes in him too.
Game too.
It was, yeah, it was. It was the real national championship game. But I can tell that Coach DeBoer knows, like, he's not giving any like, oh no, it's going to be this guy. It's going to be Mac. It's going to be.
And I don't think he brought that guy in from Washington thinking this is my answer. No,
they're going to work on making him better at the short passing game. Maybe form a little bit better. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Right. Attention to detail.
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm surprised and impressed by Ty Simpson sticking around.
Me too.
I think that says a lot about him.
Look, man, I'm going to tell you right now.
In this day and age, for him to stick around.
I know, but I'm going to tell you, he might leave when Dylan Laudergan passes him. Because I'm calling it right now. I'm calling it right now, Jake. Dylan Laudergan's going to end up being the guy that when A-Day game comes, I'm putting my money on Dylan Laudergan.
Now they're all in the same playing field.
That's right.
I
could be totally wrong because they all might have a great spring, but I just got this feeling with a little bit of intel that Dylan Laudergan's all right. I've heard it, man.
I've heard a lot of good things about Dylan.
He's the first guy since Tua that everybody's like, man, you got.
It was crazy.
You remember when Tua was there?
Mm-hmm.
And then they were telling us, and we would hear like, Tua he ripped our defense apart in practice again.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Oh yeah. Well,
off the record,
I wasn't paying too much attention, as I think I've told this story on here before, but spring game, I walked into the stadium during the spring game when he had just gotten there. He's been there for like a month or two, and I didn't even know who he was. I wasn't paying attention at all, and this was my first time back since I got done playing. I think it was 2 or 3 years. I guess it was 2 years after I was done. And I walk in and I see him hit a tight end on a crossing route. He steps up in the pocket, layers it over a linebacker. And I was like, who the hell is that? I was standing next to Ellis Ponder. I was like, who the hell is that? He goes, that's Tua. That's the new Hawaiian kid. And I was like, oh my God. I just saw that one throw. I was like, okay, so a lot of this hype is real. I'd heard about him, but I didn't know who he was or what number he was wearing. Or
Did you know yesterday was 4 and 26?
226.
Yeah, I'm sorry, second. Yeah, 226. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking about 431, but no, you're right. It was.
Speaking of the Cam Newton scandal, you see him get after it?
What I heard a little bit about it, but I haven't seen the video. Was there a brawl?
All I know is I've seen Cam Newton one time in person up close, my junior year in high school, and I've never seen anybody with traps and casts and just
What happened?
I don't know, but all I saw was him dragging a guy by his dreads and holding another guy like this, and I was like,
whooping somebody's ass.
Well, had he wanted to, I think it would have been really ugly.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he was obvious. I mean, he literally was dragging a guy by his dreads across the ground as he was holding another guy like this. I was like,
man.
good Lord.
Dude,
I saw that guy. I think I was a junior, so I was like 6'4", 195 pounds, and went to an Auburn. This is when Malzahn was the head coach. It was the year they won the national championship, and I went during the summertime, or it was camp, and I walked up to him, and I mean, it was like his traps almost touched his ears, and I was like, this guy plays quarterback. I was like, my God, I'd never seen anybody built like that.
Yeah.
And the moment I saw that video yesterday of him fighting, I was like, all right, these are a couple of low IQ dudes to pick a fight with Cam Newton.
Man, I got to tell you, man, like, first off, of the Auburn people, and I'm not an Auburn guy, right? Charles Barkley's my favorite Auburn guy.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty...
like that, it's not even close. Like, and the reason why is that Charles Barkley does
I don't know,
this.
Bruce Pearl, Charles Barkley.
I like Bruce Pearl too, but I'm just telling
Charles
you,
barely has him in my book.
But the reason I love Charles Barkley is that Charles Barkley on that NBA show is fantastic. Him and Shaq.
Kenny.
Can we get to when we get Ryan and Shank in here? That's what we want. You know what I mean? You just want a show like that where you just get four people in there
during the All-Star game the other night.
Yeah, I loved it, dude. Somebody, I was talking about that today, and I was like, I just love Shaq.
He just says whatever he wants
to
say.
I love Shaq, and I love Charles, man. So Charles is my favorite. And I do like Bruce Pearl. Like you're right, Bruce Pearl's cool. I think that if Bruce Pearl doesn't come to Auburn, we still got some Christy Curry running our men's team, where we're constantly just not good, but we're okay. But we're
he put the pressure on Greg for sure.
Yeah, right. You got to have somebody. You all of a sudden you care now. But
Bo
Jackson,
did Bill Battle or Greg hire Avery Johnson?
Bill Battle hired Avery Johnson, and I heard it was
was a good hire. I'll give it to him.
I like Avery too. You and me both like Avery.
I don't care. I mean, I know it wasn't
I like
he had a few decent years. He brought in some good players. I mean, Nate Oates won with Avery Johnson's players.
Huge upgrade from Anthony Grant.
Yeah.
Avery's just a good. I think Avery's a good dude. Like
I do too.
I mean, I know people will argue. There's going to be somebody that sees this and they're going to be like, Nick. You know what I mean? You get that, Nick. You don't know. I don't care. I like him.
I like him a lot.
And I'm like, you and me are the same way. Like, your experience with somebody is your experience. My experience is that the guy's a good dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then,
I've met people that I don't like, but then I think back, I'm like, yeah,
everybody says he's a good
dude.
He's not a good dude, man. I'm telling you, he's not a good dude. I don't want to say who I'm thinking of right now, but he made a horse's ass out of himself in the last week. But let's just leave that at that. Let's talk about Auburn. So Bo Jackson, right? Amazing Auburn athlete.
Yep.
Frank Thomas. I don't know who.
The big three: Frank Thomas.
Frank
Charles
Thomas.
Barkley.
I don't know him, but I'm just saying, like, of my Auburn people.
You know Frank Thomas.
I don't know him personally. He's one guy I haven't met.
Oh yeah, I don't know him.
Nah, but
I've never met Charles Barkley.
I loved it. I love everything about Charles Barkley. The fact that we didn't give him a scholarship, we should have been begging him to come to Alabama. It would have been great to have him at Alabama.
Oh,
he's awesome, man.
That wouldn't have happened, but
there's not many Auburn people where you're like, I love this guy. But I love the fact that he tells it like it is, man, and he's not afraid to be like, well, I'll pull for Alabama this time.
Yeah,
he's a great Auburn guy. But then and Bo Jackson, amazing athlete, and then and I wrote about Bo Jackson in my book that I haven't published yet, but it'll eventually come out. I was a kid and I went and waited for Bo Jackson after a game against the Orioles at Memorial Stadium when he was with Kansas City, and he's the best athlete of our lifetime, and it ain't even close. And I know you didn't live through it, but I did. And
I've seen the throw from the wall though.
There's never been anything like it. Like you want to talk about, like, I know that Dion played football and baseball, and I know the guy that played for the Braves and the Cardinals, I forget his name, Brian Jordan, he did it too. They were okay at baseball. Like Bo Jackson was unbelievable. I mean, like, watching him play football and then watching him play baseball, like I was at a game with Father Carl.
Phenomenal at both.
Dude, I was at a game. I told you I went to Boca on my way to Key West, and I stopped and saw Father Carl. He would take me to games when I was a kid. It wasn't my dad, just a guy that like loved doing play-by-play. It's why I got into the business. And for some reason, he just liked me, and he took me to the game, and we were at the Orioles game, and we went because I wanted to see Bo Jackson, and then like Bo's like this, like he's like, "Am I put me on the big screen here before I give you the?" So Bo's up to bat, and he calls. It's taking too long. Calls time. The guy doesn't grant him time, and then Bo hits a fucking bomb. Boom! 3-run homer off this guy, and he's rounding the bases. And Father Carl looks at me, and he's like, "You'll never see that again." You just know that same game. Ball in the gap, Bo runs up the side of the wall and back down after he.
That was the game?
He did. I guess he did that a few times.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that thing was something that he did a few times. And he's right, man. Like I don't. There's never been a better athlete than Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
But Cam Newton's on that level where you're like, what you're talking about. Like you're.
Well, I always. Just because you're big and strong and cut doesn't mean you're a great athlete. I've seen guys that are really good at football that have a hard time dribbling a basketball, and don't have fluid motions. And it's like weird. I bet you Bo Jackson can play golf too. I bet he's pretty.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty good hand-eye coordination.
He can play.
You
golf.
Watch LeBron James.
One of my buddy Bricken plays golf with him.
Really?
Or his friend, like he's friends with the whole Auburn crew. Bricken getting a shout out, by the way. I didn't know
Bricken was a bug.
He's not, but his boys are. Although,
well, you're judged by the company you keep.
That's right, Bricken. I'm not telling Bricken. I'm not telling you that we're talking about you on here. You're gonna have to. Somebody's gonna have to give you a heads up. He's like, look at who I'm playing golf with. It's like Bo Jackson. I'm like, okay, well, it's a bunch of Auburn guys. Bugs.
Old bugs.
But I haven't felt like there's been a lot of momentum change since you would have thought, And I got to give Ryan Williams so much credit for like coming back to Alabama, because that was just such a huge.
No, yeah.
If we would have lost him to Auburn or whoever, forget about the NIL.
Man, we lost him to Auburn. That'd have been ugly.
God, that would have sucked.
I
see you making.
You got an ad read, yeah.
All right, let me go ahead and read an ad while you make your way to a break here. What I want to tell you guys is that we appreciate all of you hanging out with us here on Roll Tide Pods and Disrupt the Media. Make sure that you like and subscribe as you hang out with us, Jay Coker and Mick Gillispie. And I want to remind you that we're brought to you by MyBookie. MyBookie.ag, 50% up, 50% off, up to $1,000 price match when you use the promo code Next Round. You got a lot of great things going on right now. You're talking about college basketball, the NBA. Major League Baseball is about to kick off. How about March Madness, which, by the way, is going to be really interesting this year because there's no clear-cut team to keep an eye on as far as a national championship. But MyBookie brings us this show, and we appreciate their help. And I want to remind you guys, too, that if you need help making your wagers, Lance's Lock. Lance'sLock.com. Whether it's the NBA, college basketball, Major League Baseball, Lance covers it all at lanceslock.com. And been a lot of fun bringing you guys the show and talking Alabama football every week. But please get in the comments section and talk to us in the comments section. We got a lot of really cool things in the future coming together. And, you know, when we started doing this, Jake, it was like, you know, just kind of figuring out the formula, like what's this show going to be like, you know?
Yeah.
Like they put us together. Like I was talking to Reed today about it. It's like, what you just don't know. Like, what if you'd have came in here and been like, I hate that son of a bitch.
Yeah.
This guy.
Hey man, I've been dealing with it for a while now.
Like this guy, like, well, you show up, like I can't get out of here fast enough. This is terrible.
I was hoping we get canceled.
Hey, your snake comment still, your rattlesnake comment that got us close. I had somebody message me the other day. They were like talking about Shank being in chains, you know, and I'm like, man, I was not thinking about anything other than somebody just dropped a tree on my fence. I do love, I love Shank's intellectual humor.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
he's smart.
He is smart. When you said that, I was like,
you felt
we'll
it,
see
huh?
where this is gonna go.
You knew it already, huh? And I wasn't even thinking that. You know what it was? It was Toby Keith had just died. And you know, he had that album was like Off the Chain or something, you know, one of his big albums that came out, right?
Well, that was the one, Angry American with Unleashed.
Oh, Unleashed, right? It had it was like a dog coming off the chain or something. And I don't know, man. I was just saying that. Like,
you had Unleashed, Uncut, and Unchained, and you picked the worst of the three.
I just love what I love is like I love Ryan telling me like what was going on. Ryan just reminds me of a friend I had in high school, you know, like I can really understand him, you know, like of all the people.
Ryan doesn't give a damn.
I know, but I mean, like I could kind of like, I'm like, oh, well, I wasn't thinking that, but we got to get those guys back in here, man. People love the shows though. They love Shank. They love Ryan. You know, like I hear so many good comments about those guys.
I used to piss Ryan off. His locker was like, mine was against the wall, and to get to the shower, I had to walk out of this corner past his locker to get to the shower. And, you know, after practice, we all had lock boxes on our lockers. So, you know, you press the key in and opened it, and everybody had them open. So you didn't have to, you know, close them, enter the key back in, open it back up. And I'd walk by him and just, you know, all the time, he'd have his lock box open, and I'd close it, you know, just to be a pain in the ass. Be like, man, don't you hate when people do that? Just kept on walking. He gets so pissed off at me.
I like that gear. He said he's gonna hook us up.
I gotta get one of those.
Me too, man.
I gotta get one of those.
We gotta just like sponsor, like have, you know, promote that, you know.
Oh yeah.
Just to do it. Like I'd love to see him like just blow up and be building complexes.
Oh, I would too.
Although if he's building next door to me, he's okay. This is not.
Yeah. There'd be some real content coming out of here if he moved in next door.
I need it. I've said that before. Like there's the lot right next to me, very contested. If he wants it, we'll work it out. Just to have somebody to hang out with, you know, he'd be awesome to hang out with.
Yeah, you get little Jake to show up and fight for Ryan to move in next door.
Ryan. He loves Ryan and Shank. My son thinks like those guys he was telling my wife the other day about how great it was having, and it's like I don't know, like I'm chop shit, you know, you are.
I'll walk in. Is Ryan or Shank coming? No, not today.
Yeah, it's like that, man. I'm like, what about me, man? I'm like the host of this circus. Man, so let's talk about like 8A stuff, man. Heading into 8A, here we are, like kind of less than a week out. and for all of you that have hung around this long, thank you. You got the transfer portal. Do you know this? The transfer portal opens 2 days after the 8A game. I think that's why they made the 8A game where they made it, because they'll get a good look at who they have.
Yeah.
I think that DeBoer's going to find out
because it's earlier this year than normal.
Yeah, it's like the 8A games on the 13th and the portal's on the 15th. But I think he's going to find out there's a lot more talent.
It gives him time to watch other 8A game or other spring games
right.
too.
But what I'm saying is, I think he's going to find out there's a lot more talent at Alabama than he's used to.
Oh yeah. Well, the physicality up front is what he's going to be blown away by, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different world in the trenches in the SEC. And I think that's what he's going to be just shocked by. I think you can find speed at the skill positions around the country, but again, you find a different kind of intensity down here in the trenches, and quickness and athleticism and 300-pound guys. I really think he's going to be excited about how he can block certain fronts and utilize guys in the run game up front to block in a way that he's not used to.
Yeah. I thought it was a good hire. Was it Christian Robinson, who was worked for and played for 5 different schools in the SECs, coming here from Baylor. Yeah. I thought we've got to keep go out and get all these other guys, but you got to keep those SEC guys in here as well, as far as coaching goes.
Well,
I like that.
The Clinton Dix, Denzel Duvall. Like I've said this so many times, so I'm red in the face. But I mean, those are the guys that, they're going to be able to get guys in. They're more important to this program than ever.
They got, and they need to listen to them.
Oh yeah. If I had Denzel sitting here right now, he'd be he'd just light in the room and you'd love him to death. You'd understand why he can recruit so well.
Right,
he's just a genuine great guy out of Louisiana, but he was a part of my recruiting trip. He didn't have me. He wasn't my host, but as soon as I walked in, big smile. He's charismatic, just a hell of a representative for the school.
Right.
And hopefully he's a lifelong guy as long as he wants to be there.
Yeah.
But you lose a guy like that, or Chapman, or Jamie Mosley's another one. I mean, just great guys. Just need to keep them around.
Yeah.
Keep the local guys here, and they'll be able to go get whoever they want. He's got a hilarious story about what's his name? Receiver from Houston. He plays for the Dolphins now. Hurt his ankle in the
Waddle?
Yeah.
Okay.
He recruited Waddle with Tosh Lupoy.
Oh yeah.
And he was an integral part of getting him to Tuscaloosa. And I can't tell the story as good as he can, but
oh shit,
I'll have to get you to get him to tell you that story.
Bring him in.
Man,
we got a major league pitcher coming in soon.
That's right. That's gonna be a good one. Monday. Supposed to be today. Postponed us. He big timed us today.
That's all right. That's all right.
Y'all love him.
I can't wait.
Mobile guy. I'm excited to hear some pro baseball pitcher stories.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I've heard a few. The pitchers always seem to be the wild card on a baseball team.
Oh yeah, dude. I gotta see who,
because you got to be gotta have a screw loose to be a pitcher. I feel like
right,
as analytical as you got to be, and as confident as you have to be, and a little bit nutty. They're always the wild cards. Of course, he's pretty flatline from what I've gathered.
He was a great pitcher.
Yeah.
Are you worried at all, all those guys transferred out of the secondary?
No, because we got the talent coming right back in behind it.
So you just
I would be if Coach Saban was still there and they all transferred. That would be concerning.
Right.
But it all makes sense to me. I'm just glad we have guys to come in that have talent that can play the positions.
They'll look at and they'll attack the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll be coming the transfer portal.
This spring is going to be.
Yeah, right. It'll come back this way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, all the coaches were excited when Coach Saban left, but they're going to be a little bit nervous after their spring games.
Yeah.
I think they'll be coaching their guys a little softer during the spring,
Yeah.
So,
are you worried at all about the NCAA getting kind of another loss with the NIL stuff in Tennessee? Like,
I don't even factor in the NCAA anymore. I don't even think about them.
Basically, it sounds like
there are no rules.
They
can't enforce anything.
Right.
They're done.
Right. So what do you do?
I don't know. There's got to be some kind of governing body, but they were awful when they were in control anyway.
I never felt like they were fair.
I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to what they did.
Yeah.
And we've covered this earlier in this podcast.
Well, I know, but it's just bullshit, right?
No, I mean, yeah, it just what they do makes no sense. They're not. I mean, they needed to do away with them a long time ago. I'm glad to see them fade out into irrelevancy.
Right. But it's what's the next thing going to be? You know, there's got to be some kind of guideline. I mean, wouldn't you think?
Either the conferences are going to have to police it, or they're going to have to have a governing body put in place, much like the NFL, and there's going to have to be caps and. But I don't know how state laws affect certain pay scales, or I don't know how state laws will affect moving forward having a governing body.
Right.
I mean, there's no real association of college athletics. I mean, it's all pretty individualized. So, it's not like the NFL where you've got one entity that controls everything.
Yeah. And they're going to eventually have to get there, or it's just going to be the Wild West.
Yeah. I mean, these aren't club teams playing.
Yeah. Right. I played club lacrosse at Alabama. Scored a goal against Southern Miss.
I know, you told me.
Yeah. Still one of the great moments of my life. I mean, it was on a rebound. One of the only wins we had that season.
Carry more weight than the KA win.
The KA games. More people talk to me about the KA flag football games than lacrosse stuff. But the fun thing about
what were you at Maryland?
Same KA
at Maryland.
Yeah, transferred down. The funny thing is, like, you really want to get into this. Like, when I transferred, I had to affiliate with me, and this is so funny. But I was a ringer on the Q Dogs. You know the Q Dogs. You know what I'm talking about? The Qs.
Yeah.
I was a ringer on their softball team. And they were like, but they had never had a good team, and we started winning. It's a pretty good baller, and they were great dudes. And this was before I had gone through all the stuff to like where I wasn't. I mean, I was, I could have I didn't affiliate yet. I was like a free agent, but I was like, I don't want to go through Rush again, And those guys were like, look, man, if you want to join, we'll give you a bid. And they're like, it might be tough on you, but we'll give you a bid, because we had become friends over the softball games.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they'd never won softball before. Me and one other dude came in, and we're like, ringers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we will, and they were good athletes too,
Oh, yeah.
And I ran at one guy one Q worked at the cigar at R&R Cigar like recently, and I was like, told him the story, and he didn't believe me. And I was like, I started naming the guys, and he messaged him, and he was like, yeah, they were, they remember you, great dudes.
Oh yeah.
They said it might be intense if I took the bid, it might be intense. Like, I might get beat up on by some people. They were like, but everybody will like you, once you get through it. I was like, I don't know, man. I already done this once. I'm not doing this again. Great guys, though, man. Like, really cool dudes. It's just once you get out of that freshman year, you're not trying to do all that stuff anymore.
No.
It really, that's all it came down to. Like, if it was
when you're a freshman, you're stupid enough to do it.
Yes, that's all it came down to. Like, I would have loved to hung out with those guys. Like, it had nothing to do with hanging out. It was like, I don't want to get beat up on anymore. And I know it's a different world now with all that stuff.
I can't imagine back then.
Can you imagine get like somebody just sears your arm with
Jesus.
It was all because we just had fun playing softball, whooping people's ass.
Oh, yeah, the brand's a little too far.
I think like people would probably see me with that and be like, they wouldn't believe it.
No, they wouldn't. I wouldn't believe it.
The one guy's name, and hopefully somebody out there watching knows him, because the one guy's name was George Washington. His name was George Washington. I forget what his last name is. It was George Washington something, Great guy, man. Great. They were great dudes.
Oh yeah,
really,
I'm sure.
Really awesome dudes. What it was?
I mean, you play on a team with anybody, you're gonna like them,
dude. I lived in Rose Towers. I think this is how it happened. This is how I remember it. And one of my roommates knew these guys, or somehow they needed it. They were tired of losing in softball, and we were easy to spot on their team. Obviously, right? Great dudes, and we're start winning all these games, and they're like, man, we've been terrible, because they had to play sports and stuff for like fraternity, like like points and all.
Yeah,
and we just had a great time. They were just really fun guys to hang out with.
Oh yeah,
and then it's like, sure. When you're good at something, you're real confident. I'll be like, man, we got this. See some of these guys roll up,
Yeah.
So when I got into KA, they didn't like me that much, like, because I was an outsider. And then when I like took over like running the intramurals, that's when people started liking me, because I'm like, we're gonna win.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And we did.
Kind of a leader in there.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah, but I didn't realize at this age, like, we still talk about this stuff. Like, it's still something.
Oh yeah. I mean, I told you that story about my father-in-law, one of his best friends. He's like, you may have won a national championship about Alabama, but you never beat the SAEs.
No. Man, those games would be so intense, man. Sigma Nu and us had some battles,
Mm-hmm.
I told you I had that guy. I was at a
Two
bar.
of my best friends in high school were Sigma Nu.
Yeah, they were good, man. We had some battles with them, and just run. I'm at Theta Chi. I'm at this bar in Birmingham.
I'm sorry, it was Theta Chi.
Yeah,
two of my best friends in high school were Theta Chi.
I beat them I beat them. Intense game, man. I beat them with a catch and a touchdown, pretty much, and they were like talking about me.
20 years later, that you run to a bar and they're like,
"Well, it wasn't Mick 20 years, but it was 10 years." They're like, "You Mick?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like wondering what I had done. They bought me a drink. They're actually pretty cool dudes, but they didn't give up a point the whole season until that play, and we beat them 7-6. Yeah.
Who kicked the extra point?
We went. We did. You just went. You had to put from the 3 or the 7 or something.
I gotcha.
But you would have thought that those games were like, man, you would have thought they were like the games of the games.
Oh yeah.
And then freshman football was something else. Like, that was like something else we did. And these were like physical tackle football games without pads, where guys would like get their arms broken and the ankles cracked and stuff. Yeah. That's a whole, I don't even know if I should talk about it on here. It's like Fight Club, but those were intense too. Like those, I did that at Maryland. I didn't do it down here, but they do it down here because I've heard, so it's man. I was telling my cousins, I will say my nephew that might be coming to Alabama. Don't ask me if I love Alabama, because I love it. Like I'm going to convince you to come here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to influence your life that much. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean by that?
I know.
And it's like, but I can't tell you that it's not the greatest place on earth because it is. So like, don't, you know, you got to figure out. I don't want to be that guy that's like, this is paradise. But Jake, it was paradise to me, man.
I mean, you know, for me, it was, I mean, I was just there for 2 years, but it just, you know, so busy the whole time. Didn't have a whole lot of time to do anything else but football.
You felt home.
It was kind of a fast. I mean, it was like in fast forward almost. I mean, I didn't do all the extracurriculars.
I wish we would have went to school together, but I don't know that you would have been the same football player. That would have been such a bad influence. We're going to Gillettes. And it's free. And we'd have these band parties that were great too.
You know, I never went to any of those.
So you missed all that stuff, man.
Yeah.
They were fun.
Florida State, I hit the strip a pretty good bit.
How's the strip there?
It's a lot wilder than Tuscaloosa
because it's probably like a club scene.
Well, there's a strip. There's Yanni's and Ken's, and there's another one. Then there was a downstairs bar. But it was, I mean, you didn't have or you at least didn't, you know, in Alabama, you feel like, I mean, you can pick out the fraternity and sorority, I guess the Greek life. At Florida State, it's not that obvious, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Just there was a lot of, the clubbing was a lot more. There's a lot more clubbing going
on. Clubbing.
Yeah. And then the country bar, which was,
what was the country bar?
It was Ken's.
Oh, Ken's. Oh.
Yeah. And
is it still there?
I don't know. I haven't been back since my third year at Florida State.
We should go.
Man, you talk about a podcast. If I got my old teammates together and we went over there, yeah, it'd be fun.
I'm up for it.
But when I left, they built a new one, Recess, and another one. I think one of them closed, but that turned into their new favorite spots. But
Tuscaloosa, when it comes to like the bar scene, man, it's like I got to give, you know, you and I both love Tripp. Like, you got to give that dude so much credit, man. Like,
they had one of the Kardashians there.
I know. Not just that the tailgate show is live there on Fridays. The funny thing is,
it is the best bar.
Dude, the funny thing is, like, I run into this guy during COVID at the Tiki Bar, and I'm drunk as shit. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to do my shit. Like, let's do it. You know, like, ever since it's been there, you know?
Yeah.
I've known Tripp since I was a student, you know. I always liked him. Purdy, you know, the Purdy stories, you know.
Oh, yeah. I ran into Purdy at the Floribama. I'll say about a year and a half ago. Maybe
good
2
dudes,
years.
man.
Yeah. It was 2 summers ago. So
they're like, that's too. Maybe it's just kind of in my wheelhouse, but that's Innisfree and Gillettes.
Yeah.
Big Will, who went to college with me at KA, he's one of the ownership guys there. But it feels like the same bars have kind of been the same bars for a long time, you know, like Innisfree, Gillettes, and then Houndstooth, you know, which they rebuilt it. I've been reluctant to embrace the new built Houndstooth just because I had so many.
I've never been to the Houndstooth. Never been there.
What?
Yeah, never been there.
I mean, I would think you would walk in and you wouldn't pay for a beer.
Well, I've just never been there.
Do people buy you your beers? I mean, you won a national championship. Like, do you get hooked up?
Yeah. I mean, I get hooked up every now and then, I guess, but I'm not one that hunts it. You know, I mean, I'm not a guy that's like, hey, man, recognize me? Can I get a free beer?
I don't mean like
I'm
that,
not doing that.
but I mean, you would think like when you walk in, like if I'm buying, I'm like, oh fuck, there's Jake Coker, man. You know, like
It happens sometimes, and I'm very thankful. You know?
right. What do you go like doubles? Like, hey, you know, Big Bill's paying. I'll take a double of. How do you like Dunaway's vodka or tequila? Is it good?
It's good. It's good. I'm you know,
I was just asking.
you know, I don't. I'm the same way with. I mean, beer is the only thing I can really, pick a favorite because the difference in taste. I mean,
Right.
differs so much. But I'm usually an 1800 guy. That's pretty good though. It's pretty good.
I've heard him he gave me that, so I just cracked it open for you.
I mean, again, I drink on this podcast with you, but I don't drink enough liquor to know what's good and what's not.
Okay. Me too.
But it tastes good to me.
I'm just curious, yeah, because I hear him talking about it. He loves it. I'm looking forward to football season. I think the schedule is great this year. Finally, like it's going to be a fun year. I really feel like the offense is going to be good. Am I concerned about the defense? Yes. I mean, when you only have one cornerback that played he wasn't even. No, he didn't even play. He was on the team.
Oh yeah.
But where do you get that experience from?
Well, it sounds like a lot of them have experience from previous teams.
Well, no, I mean, you're talking about 3 5-stars that are from high school, and then Jackson, who transferred from USC, so he'll have experience from there. He's the only guy that's played.
Just have to grow up fast. It'll be a fun team again this year. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman or a sophomore. If you hadn't played, you hadn't played. I think if you get older, it helps a little bit. But even when you're a senior, if you hadn't started, then it's a whole different ball game getting on the field versus getting reps in practice. When things actually matter. So, hopefully it's one of those years where we can manage the first 8 games, and by then guys got enough experience to be considered veterans.
Right.
And then we can close in on the final deal. But 12-team playoff, I mean, we should be able to manage.
Figure it out early.
Yeah.
And then, right. Yeah, right. Do that. Exactly. All right. Final thought, man. We've gone almost 2 hours right now. I thought it was really cool having Jimmy Carroll here. Yeah, guy's 80 years old. He's in here hanging out with us.
Oh yeah. Hey man, he could recruit some Alabama.
Dude, I loved him, man. 80 years old. Like, dude, I was thinking like I want to be 80 and still doing podcasts. You know what I mean? Like
he was when you asked him what Alabama means to him, and he everything got serious, and he started,
love that
giving his speech about Alabama. I was like, where's a helmet?
Yeah, right. Yeah, man.
But no, love Jimmy.
How about when he's talking about like you could tell that he didn't want to talk too much about Joe Namath, because I could tell Joe Namath probably wrote him a little bit. It's like I was looking around and Joe Namath said, "You think they're here to see Jimmy Carroll?" But you know what I didn't say on the podcast that I got to say now is I shook his hands. He's got no wonder he was a center, dude. His fingers were like down on my wrist.
Hands on him. Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, he's got some hands. He's a big frame guy. Those guys, I mean, had they had the strength training and the nutrition we had, but and hell, those guys were playing offensive line at like 200 pounds.
Well, it's a different world then, but yeah, I mean, no wonder we didn't even ask him about 25 bad snaps like McLaughlin, like, because I mean, with hands like that.
Yeah, we should have asked him about that.
Just like kind of letting him, talk about the things he wanted to talk about. But it was great to have him in here, man. Like, just to think like of what our goal should be is we should see how many national championship people we can get in here. Because he just covered 64 and 65.
Yeah.
We've had...
We get Roosevelt Patterson in here.
2015, 2012, right? 2011. I mean, we could do all of them. Yeah, let's get Roosevelt in here.
You'd like Roosevelt. Roosevelt's kind of like Shank.
Is he?
Yeah.
Shank's one of my favorites, man. He was one of my favorites before I even started this. I just like that intelligent sense of humor that he has, you know.
No, he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you knew that. I knew that when I met him in high school, and disappointed that he didn't come to Florida State with me. But
then I
was excited that he was at Alabama when I got there.
Yeah, I heard about him when I worked at Tide, and you know, we were trying to figure out, like, at when Mike and Barron were going off to do other stuff, we were like trying to figure out who could possibly replace them on the tailgate show, and his name came up a few times, you know, but I didn't know him back then. And then, but I just knew him like from the conversations that he had on his different stuff, and then having him in here, man, he's just such a cool dude. Like he
can market for sure.
Well, he's funny and he's smart, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, look, dude, we just put in an hour and 55 minutes. It's a long show, but I felt like we needed to give the people what they wanted.
That's right.
More KA flag football talk.
I think we gave them all they wanted.
Could somebody please get in the comment section and tell me about some of those classic KA Sigma Nu games? You guys do that? I'll buy you a beer. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Don't pick fights with Cam Newton.
No, man. No, I like Cam Newton too. I'm like, you know, even though he's not an Alabama guy, nothing but respect for Cam.
No, that's right.
You get dragged by your dreadlocks.
Yeah.
If he pulled me, I wouldn't have any hair. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and get in that comment section. Tell us what you think. Roll Tide, everybody.